Welcome back, guys, to Three Bold Takes. Today, we're jumping in and giving you our 12-team playoff prediction video. Now, just to keep this a little bit more concise and clear, we're going to break it up into three parts. And we're going to start with our top four teams that get a bye, the four Power Four conference champions. Technically, it could be a G5 school, but it more than likely wouldn't be. So we're going to do your top four Power Four champions. Then we'll go into our at-large bids, and then we'll wrap it up with our G5 prediction for who's going to get in at that 12 spot. So, Chase, I'm interested to hear who you've got 1 through 4 as your Power 4 conference champions from your preseason top 12.
My 1 through 4 is pretty easy. I'm going to start out with, I think, what might be the easiest one for all of us to choose. I'm going to go Big 12 here. I'm going to go Utah. Utah should be the clear favorites. Fully healthy all year. We've seen what happens when they're not healthy. Typically an 8-9 win team. Fully healthy, though, at least 11 wins this season. They have a really easy schedule, and already the Big 12 does not have a strong conference from top to bottom, adding all of the group of 5 teams just a season ago. This should be an easy call here. I can see why you may say Kansas State, Kansas, maybe even Oklahoma State, but right now for me it's Utah. I'm going to go to the second easiest one for me. I'm going to go to the Big 10, and I'm going back. I'm going to keep riding my train like I have the past couple of seasons. I'm going to go Ohio State. It's how much money for NIL? They just formed the college football Avengers. This should be the clear and concise team that should win it all. If they don't, Ryan Day should be exiting that program very soon. So I'm going to go Ohio State for Big 10. And this is where it gets tricky for me. You got the SEC and ACC. SEC, it's just, they're so strong top to bottom. You don't know who's going to come out of there. And then the ACC, they're just so weak from top to bottom. You just don't know who's going to come out of there. I'm going to go SEC first. I think they survive. The only time I really see them slipping up is late in the season, maybe in the SEC championship game. But I'm going to go Texas here. I'm going to go the real UT. I think Texas has a really good schedule. I think Georgia, who would probably be a lot of people's favorites, has a very tough back-to-back schedule that is really going to hurt them, I think. Injuries may pile up, the whole nine. So I'm going to go Texas for the SEC. And then the ACC, I don't even know where you start. I would say I can't confidently say Clemson. Definitely after last season with Dabo and expecting him to get fired at some point. This is the one I didn't have written down, gentlemen. And I may just go with my gut because you have guys like NC State, you have Miami, you have Florida State, you have Clemson. I may jump on the train with Quinn for now, but I think I'm going to go Miami for the ACC championship. Now, I don't think it's going to be they're going to be a 10, 11, 12 win team, but I do see them as the one that could potentially rise out of the pack and be ACC champion over the other few.
Freddie, what you got? Who you're top four?
Wow. I was not expecting Chase to go the Miami route.
I didn't either. I thought I was going to be alone on that hill, but here we are.
I felt throughout the entire offseason, every time you'd bring up Miami as being a playoff lock or contender or whatever, Chase kind of scoffed it off. But now all of a sudden he's got him winning the ACC. So
he saw those Cam Ward highlights from spring practice, and he's
right. So here's where it gets interesting for me. I think Ohio State wins the Big Ten. I think that's one of the easier ones to choose there. I'm actually going to go Georgia to win the SEC. I think that regular season meeting with Texas, whoever wins that game, will lose in the SEC championship game to that team. So, it's hard to beat the same team twice. So I think those two teams will split probably the regular season matchup and the SEC championship. So I've got Georgia, Ohio State. I'm going to go Kansas State to win the Big 12. And I know that that's a hot take. I think everybody's too high on Utah, right? Like I think Utah is going to be very good. I think they'll play in the Big 12 title game, but we haven't really seen them fully healthy. And I know that we caught glimpses of it a couple of years ago, and they were elite. They were magical. But I think there's too much hype around Utah in the Big 12 coming in year one. And I don't think they're just going to run away with the conference like a lot of people think this coming year. So I've got Kansas State winning the Big 12. Now, the ACC, man, Florida State's is an easy one to go with here. And I think Clemson is even a stretch as well, but I think some people will likely go that route. I think Miami is an even bigger stretch to win the ACC, but I'm going to go with them. I'm going to go with Miami as well. Quinn, it was me and you early on. I thought that Miami would make the playoffs too. Now, keep in mind, a lot can happen. Like, we remember the Georgia Tech game last year. So they got to get that stuff cleaned up on the coaching side. Georgia, Ohio State, Kansas State, and Miami are my top four.
Hey, look, and I'll even give them to you 1 through 4. My number 1, I'm right there lockstep with you guys. I think Ohio State's a lock. I think they're going to be, if not undefeated, a one-loss team, and they're going to be very highly rated. I've got them personally being undefeated. My number 2, I'm going with a one-loss Georgia. I think they're going to slip up somewhere, whether that's Ole Miss, Texas, or Alabama. But I think ultimately at the end in Atlanta, they get the win, they get the bye, they get the 2 seed. They'll be right below Ohio State due to Ohio State being undefeated. At my 3, I've got an undefeated team being ranked below one-loss Georgia, and that's Utah. I think Utah's going to run the table in the Big 12, but I do think strength of schedule is going to be honored, and Georgia will get a seeding slightly better than them. Not that it super matters, but we do got to remember now, people used to be like, the 2 and 3 seed doesn't matter because you're just going to play each other at whatever site the 1 seed doesn't want, and all that really matters is who wears a home jersey. Well, now it does. Now you're going to get the difference between playing the winner of the 7 and 10 seed or the winner of the 6 and 11 seed. So there is a little bit of a little bit of a benefit to being the 2 seed. My seed, y'all already spoiled it for me. I thought I was about to come on here and have to defend all my Cam Ward hype, all my Miami Hurricane hype. I got the Hurricanes losing 2 games this year, but I think they, at the end of the year, get hot, get into the ACC title game, and win the conference, locking up the 4 seed in the ACC. Now, next, let's go ahead, and we don't have to get as deep into these teams. I think this is where you definitely have a lot of room for interpretation. But who are your 7 teams that you got going in as your wild card team? I'll start with this. My wild card team's at the top of that heap for me is Notre Dame. I think they got a super favorable schedule. I don't love their matchup with Florida State, but that's about the only game I don't love them in. Go ahead and give me Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a lock to make this 12-team playoff this year, along with Texas and Oregon and Alabama. I think all 5 of those schools, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Texas, Alabama, and I forget who I just said. Texas, Alabama, Oregon, and Notre Dame. All 5 of those are absolute locks for me. Now, you look outside of that, that's where I think Penn State's going to sneak in, and that's where I think that Florida State is going to sneak in. I think Florida State only drops 1. I think they get a major win over Notre Dame, and I think Florida ends up looking pretty decent on their schedule by the end of the year. And I think they might drop the ACC title game. But I like Florida State to sneak in as one of the 7 at-large schools. And then for my final at-large spot, you know what? No, I said Penn State, right? Yeah, so give me Penn State. So Oregon, Penn State out of the Big 10. Give me Ole Miss, Texas, and Alabama out of the SEC. Give me Florida State out of the ACC. And give me Notre Dame out of the Independents as my 7 to sneak in.
And I'll follow that up because we pretty much almost have the same list. You just had Georgia in your top 4. I had Texas, just swapped those. I think Georgia's definitely going to be an at-large team with their strength of schedule. Alabama, Ole Miss is in there as well. I did begrudgingly put Penn State on this list, gentlemen, as much as I wanted to keep them off. They are in there. Notre Dame, of course, because we talked about who we think are playoff locks for this season. Again, it's got to be Notre Dame here. I mentioned that last week. Definitely in here. Oregon, how can you forget about them? I think they're going to go under the radar for a lot of people this season because of Ohio State. All the pressure, everything is on Ohio State. Oregon's going to be able to sneak and play really, really good football. And then, Quinn, the one bold take I'm going to have for your list is you putting in 2 ACC teams. I'm going to flip that. I'm going to go Big 12. I think Big 12 will have 2 teams in before the ACC does, and I'm going to go Kansas State is my final at-large bid. Fair.
Wow, okay. I like that. So a lot of similar teams here. Oregon, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama. I thought about putting Michigan here. I just don't think at the end of the year they're going to be ranked high enough. They may be on that bubble at 13 or 14. Or heck, they could be 12, but then just get kicked out because of the G5 auto bid. That is a possibility as well. We got to think about that too. Who's that team that's going to be kicked out because of the G5? I would assume that some fan bases will be very angry. So Oregon, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama. I'm going Utah, Penn State, and Notre Dame. Those are my teams. I think that's I don't want to say a lock, but barring any crazy nonsense that happens, I think the biggest brands and the biggest or the highest strength of schedule are going to get the benefit of the doubt 9 times out of 10. And that's what I'm afraid of with this 12-team playoff, by the way, is that it's going to be the same rotation of teams every year, sort of like it was with the 4-team.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that, especially with like a rotation of about 6 or so schools that just constantly make their way there. But now let's go to the last part that I think is the absolute hardest part of this playoff. And that is, who do you have as your G5 auto bid school? Freddie, who you got?
So there was about, 3 or 4 teams that I kind of thought could do it. Liberty is one. Boise State is another. Memphis even, because they typically have a very good season. And, who knows? I mean, a team could go 9-3, win their conference, and be the highest G5 ranked, champion. So who knows there? App State's another good one. Like, it'd be so fun to see App State in a 12-team playoff when they're notorious for pulling upsets. So I think that could be fun. But, and also Tulane, the last couple of years, they've been high on the list. I'm going to go Liberty as the Conference USA champion here. I think the other teams may beat each other up, to be honest with you. And that could be one downfall to this, is that you may get a Conference USA. No disrespect to the Conference USA, but the American Conference is way better. Like, there are other G5 conferences that are better than Conference USA. But let's say a team runs the table, goes undefeated, wins the conference, they're probably going to be ranked higher. So that could be another downfall here to giving the one auto bid to the highest ranked G5 champion.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that one up, actually, because Liberty was a thought. But after coming from MTSU and knowing the CUSA, Liberty is by and far above the best team, but they're all offense. Their defense is very mediocre, if not less than mediocre. So they thrive off their offense, and you saw that. And, of course, it was against Oregon. However, you saw that what happens when you rely on your offense as a group of 5. And me personally, I'm kind of stagnant on the idea with a group of 5 team inside the playoffs, just because do we really see a number 5 team losing unless they're just super weak? But most of those teams are going to be SEC Big Ten teams up towards the front. Anyway, I've been very reluctant on appreciating teams that have lost their head coach this previous season. They're going in with a first-year coach. But I'm gonna swap my tune here, and I'm going to go Tulane. I really love Sumrall. I love Troy. I love what he did at Troy. I think we all looked at it. He had an 85% win percentage as a head coach. I think top 3 out of national coaches. So I think Tulane's in really good hands. They get a great Oregon quarterback, Ty Thompson, to come to a group of 5 team and lead them. So I think this is a new era. You just lost Michael Pratt to the draft after he graduated, and your head coach, Willie Fritz. I think he went to Houston, if I'm not mistaken. Quinn, do you know that one off the top of your head?
I don't know that. I
think it was Houston, but I could be wrong. But I think they have a good team, and I really like Sumrall. I'm going to go with Tulane as my group of 5.
Look, I had a hard time. I went back and forth. Really, it was between two schools for me. One was Memphis. I love Summerall and Tulane. I think they're going to be a bigger threat come year 2. I think he needs 1 year to kind of get his system in place down there. But I think Memphis is loaded, and they're going to be a perennial contender to be the G5 rep as long as they're in the G5, especially with the money that FedEx is now pouring into that program. The other school that I had circled is Appalachian State. At the end of the day, maybe this is just a dumb reason, but I've been currently playing with App State in college football 25 as the head coach. So I'm going to get on here and pick them over Memphis for no other reason than just personal love. I think it's a crapshoot when you're trying to pick the G5 school. I do think this. I think they definitely need to be heavily scrutinizing strength of schedule with these group of 5 schools. Because like you said, Freddie, like the American Conference is leagues above the rest of them in difficulty. The Mountain West and the Sun Belt are really not that far behind. They do have some quality teams at the top end of their conference. But the MAC, and especially the CUSA, there's just not a lot of depth. I mean, the MAC has a couple at the very top, like Toledo's pretty good, Miami University's pretty good, Northern Illinois throws out a good team every now and again. Same thing with Central and Western Michigan. But nothing super consistent in the MAC. And then the CUSA, I mean, there's 2 legitimate football programs in the CUSA. You got Liberty and you got Western Kentucky, and that's it. Like the rest of them are still either trying to get their foot under them or they're brand new to the FBS. It's just not like a super deep conference. And I think that needs to be taken into account. I mean, because we saw what happened, the difference between Oregon and Liberty on that football field. When you play was it the absolute worst schedule in college football? I know it was right at the bottom.
No, yeah, it was like 133rd.
Yeah. It was terrible. It was like the worst strength of schedule in the sport, and it showed when they played Oregon. They got run off the field in a way that no top G5 school really has. When you before that, I think the worst blowout was Penn State Memphis, and at least that game was kind of competitive for half of the game out in the Cotton Bowl. So I think we definitely need to take strength of schedule into account when we're talking about the CUSA. We need to see that conference grow as a conference before we start just handing Liberty the invitation every single year because they went undefeated in the weakest conference in America. But guys, that is our prediction for our 12 teams each in the 12-team playoff. We're not going to go any further than just giving you who we have. I mean, it's kind of crazy to then turn around and predict every single game to the champion for the preseason. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you like, give us a comment, give us a follow, share this with other people who love college football. We're trying to get our names out there. I'm Quinn. I've been joined with Freddie and Chase. We're 3 Bold Takes, and we'll see you on the next video.